Welcome to part 3 of our interview with Kaye Scott. We'll be looking at contemporary topics. So we might move off boxing for a little bit. We've done a lot of boxing so far, and a contemporary topic at the moment is the voice to Parliament.
Yes.
So there's lots of discussions on it. We'd love to hear your opinion. What's your opinion on the voice to Parliament?
I think overall it's a really great idea. We, as a country, firstly, it's a great recognition of the First Nations people and how important it is for them to be consulted on potential legislation that's going to affect them. I think that we should refer back to them and say, and ask their opinion on it. Is this policy going to be beneficial? What are the disadvantages? What are the advantages? So I think that's a really fantastic idea. My only slight concern is whether it's one of those things that the government does to, I guess, to tick a box. I know that they don't have a veto power in it. So essentially you could consult them and ask them and they could go, I don't think that's going to be very good. And then we could just go, we want that policy to go through. So I hope that it's not one of those situations where we've got this set up and we consult with them, but then their voice isn't listened to. Yeah. But on paper it looks great and go, we've got this and blah, blah, blah. So that's probably my only concern, that their voice isn't listened to.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I do think it's a good step in the right direction.
And every step in that direction is a good thing. You know?
Sure is.
It may not be perfect the first time, but let's keep moving forward.
Definitely.
So, what's a typical day look like for an elite athlete like yourself? What start to finish?
Okay.
What are we looking at?
So there's probably 2 different phases. Again, boxing as a sport, we do get limited funding. So in a lot of other countries, if you're the best in the country, your full-time job is just being an athlete, and we have a centralised program where you kind of say would live at the Australian Institute of Sport and your job is just being an athlete. That's not the way we work in Australia. It's also quite difficult because we're such a big country to be able to do that. You don't just travel an hour here and we can all meet and then you go back home. It would mean everyone moving from their states and having to live somewhere. So when I'm in a generalised training camp, I still work full-time and I train full-time. So at the moment I do personal training and some group fitness classes as well. It's what's worked best for me the last 10 years because I do have to disappear for kind of 4 to 6 weeks at a time travelling overseas. I've got really supportive long-term clients that understand that. So I usually juggle mostly 2 sessions a day. Sometimes I'll do a third one if I can squeeze it in, and then training my clients as well. So it's a lot of travel as well because I'm part of it. I'm a New South Wales Institute of Sport scholarship holder, so it means I travel from Sydney out to Homebush and then I travel every day from Sydney up to the Central Coast to train here with Joel.
Yeah.
And then I work kind of between 4 and 6 hours a day as well.
So
busy.
Very busy. So obviously having to manage the money and all that sort of stuff is a big part of it, and the exercise. How about the food and the eating and the nutrition? Because you see a lot nowadays about nutrition on TV, protein shakes, etc. So how important is the nutrition in the whole process? Nutrition
is huge in boxing because we're a weight-based sport. I think because I've been in it so long, I naturally encompass a pretty healthy diet. It's kind of just my norm of what I fall into. And then when you do start a training camp, knowing that you've got a fight in 8 weeks' time, things do become a lot more strict. However, I'm actually in the process now of, I have been fighting as a light middleweight boxer, so it's either 69 or 70 kilos for the past kind of 5 years, since before 2018 Commonwealth Games. But the Olympics has limited weight divisions for both men and female. They don't have a full spectrum of the 12 weight divisions. And my light middleweight was in the last Olympics. However, in Paris 2024, they've just rearranged all the weight divisions that they've selected. and mine isn't there anymore. So it does mean I am going to be making my debut at welterweight, which is dropping down to 66 kilos. So it's another 4 kilos down on what I'm already at. Yeah. So I'm very lucky to have the scholarship at New South Wales Institute of Sport. So I've got some professionals to help me make that weight change, because I need to do it the right way. A, so I'm going to perform, and B, so it's healthy on my body as well. I'm already a pretty lean person as it is, so I do need those professionals to make sure it's done in the right way. And there'll be a lot less treats happening in my diet. Probably going to become a little bit of a grumpy person over the next few months. But when you got a goal, eyes on the prize, and you do what you got to do.
You've spoken about the sports science on your weight and things. I'm assuming that as a female athlete, there's a lot of sports science now on maybe the menstrual cycle and the training around that too. How do women manage all that in their training?
It's actually becoming a little bit of a popular topic at the moment, not just for elite athletes, but just for the general public and just general fitness enthusiasts, of understanding the menstrual cycle and how it affects training and mood and all that kind of stuff. There needs to be a lot more research done on the topics. However, I do know a little bit. I don't want to be quoting, I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but there's different phases of your cycle that affects training and what kind of you should be choosing to train. So generally you have the menstrual cycle itself, and women are usually much more fatigued and tired in that stage. And if you have a choice of what training you do more kind of restorative type training or your lighter style training in that. The second stage after that is the follicular stage. So that kind of goes for about 14 days, and your estrogen levels of your hormones just steadily increase with that. And as that increases, it means we're much more primed for higher intensity type exercise. So HIIT style work or high intensity intervals is when you're going to do your best there. Then you have your ovulation phase. That's when often strength benefits, if you're going to do like PBs and lifting heavy in the gym, that's kind of when that would happen in that phase. We're highest with our estrogen levels there and highest with your testosterone levels as well. Then we have the luteal phase where all those hormones start to drop down again. And I think that, again, that starts to move more into the lower intensity exercise as we get closer again to start the cycle coming through. I guess understanding that and understanding feelings and hunger and that you can get bloating and weight retention, which makes a big difference in, again, weight-based sports, and having a little bit of an understanding of it and coaches to be understanding of as well. Mm-hmm. But there needs to still be a lot more research done on the topic, and I do believe contraceptive uses like the pill and implants then affect things even further, and they make changes on that. So it's a topic that needs to be researched more. And it has a big effect. It was actually only about 12 months ago, there was a professional fight over in the UK. It was for a world title as well. And one of the girls, Shannon Courtney, missed weight, and her excuse was that I was on my period and that I wasn't able to lose the weight. And that does affect things, but you need to know, as an elite athlete, you need to know where you are in your cycle, and if that's going to cause a little bit of fluid retention, you need to plan that in advance. So it is a big thing that women need to take into consideration, whether it's making weight, whether it's choosing when you need to recover or do a lighter session. It's quite an interesting topic.
And Australia is famous for our sports science. A lot of our sport is based on sports science, so it's definitely something we should be leading the world.
Definitely.
Yeah. So one other thing which I've heard is that there is an age limit coming up for you. Well, what is it and why?
Something that I'm quite passionate about, because I only really took notice of it when it was kind of brought to my attention that the World Championships that I competed at this year would be my last ever World Championships. And that is because IBA, which is the international governing body, has a age restriction of that after 40 years old that you cannot compete any longer in elite amateur boxing, male or female. And I question that, and I don't believe that it is current with today's improvements in medical research, in training protocols, in recovery protocols. And I don't understand either why professional boxers do not have that limitation in place. So they're telling me that I can't fight anymore in the amateurs, but I can go
Pro.
take a headgear off and fight 10 rounds, and that's okay, which doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's something that I've kind of been pushing on, and I feel like it's maybe one of those rules of like women weren't allowed to box in New South Wales, that it's just one of those rules that was in place, and that it's something that they need to address and have a look at and go, you know what, we need to adjust this. Yeah. So I'm trying to bring a little bit more awareness to IBA and also to the general public to kind of go, hang on, you know what, I don't agree with this.
So the question some people may ask is it just because you're unique that you're able to do it at 40, or are there other people which you know who are still really skilled boxers at 40 which could continue to compete but just aren't allowed to?
Well, I've actually had a reach out from quite a few different people internationally that have come and said to me that they've stopped getting involved with the sport because they picked it up at 37 and they kind of said, oh, what's the point if I'm going to take me a year or two and then I'm not going to be able to box or pursue anything further? And they're like, I really like you to push on that because it affects me and it changes whether I would have continued in the sport. There are a lot of other women that are performing well, and I think I do notice the quality of women in particular still seem to be able to perform quite well. And I know in the professional stage, there was a girl only last year, she was 42 or 41 years old that just won a world title. Nina Hughes at 41 years old. There was plenty of other girls that I know in national teams that are 38, 39. And probably the biggest one that draws to my attention was that at the last Olympic Games, there was a boxer from Finland, Mira Potkinen, and she qualified for the Olympics. And obviously with COVID, the Olympics was changed. It was delayed a year, and that actually meant that she was technically, under the rules, she was not able to compete. IBA lifted that rule and allowed her to box in the Olympics. And she medalled.
Well, so she's clearly able to.
She's clearly able to perform. She was up there. Yeah. And they say that the Olympics should be the best of the best. And that's not the case if they're stopping athletes. And I've just come back with a silver medal and they're saying that I can't defend my place.
Yeah.
So I'm happy if they think that it is a little bit compromising with our health, whether you have to get a brain scan or something after 40 each year. I'd definitely be on board with that. But I do think it's something that they need to re-examine.
So it sounds like you and others are physically able to. You're obviously a very smart woman if you went to university for medical science. So you should be able to make your own mind up.
Yeah.
Should you not?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's exactly it. And you can in the professional scene, so I don't really see the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to make that change.
So how do the people help with that? What's the thing they can do to help you?
I'm in the process of doing some contacting IBA directly and working with the board to try to have them examine this. But I've just started up an online petition as well to try to show some public support in this. So I've got that on my socials, my Instagram socials, it's in my bio there, and also my Facebook, Kaye Scott Boxer.
Yep.
As well. So if anyone is keen to support in that way and to want to provide an electronic signature, that would be really helpful as well.
So everyone, reach out, hop on Kaye's socials. It's just a simple click. Help them all out, all right? These athletes have worked their whole lives. They're smart. They should be able to make their own decisions. So reach out on their socials, hop on, do the petition for them. So that's the end of part 3 of our interview with Kaye Scott, where we discuss contemporary topics. Part 4 is asking your questions.